It's September 7th, 2021. I walked down NYPD before, same day, told them about the spots on the sidewalk, told them about more reiteration of the landscape and the environmental problem, along with the weather problem. Not the first time I've been there. I've been on camera several times trying to alert the authority, the only one in the area that I'm aware of. I try to intermittently involve FDNY, but being that FDNY is so large and I only have apparently something called an engine company, which I don't know what that means and why they're not capable of informing their bosses when a random civilian or pedestrian comes up with a message. Why that would be so difficult to make one phone call and call it in to something like, maybe this is important. I mean, I find the employees of New York, to get them to do anything, it's ridiculous. I would work for the city myself, except nobody seems to want to employ me for whatever reason. Let's think. So I just saw on television, I didn't, Linda came home, so I couldn't do my overlay parlay, but there was a United States of America flag, and there was some other symbol that I have not been versed in. It was a silhouette of another state that I'm unaware of without label where exactly on my Rapoggle it is. But it also had a different alphabet. It had different calligraphy symbols within its own language system. I suppose those are the right words. So, but the one gentleman, it had in my language system, it said president, and he was giving his own presidential message. Now he referenced Turkey. That much I caught in English, for my understanding. And for my document on my own behalf for trying to piece this all together and not upset any partnership with misunderstanding where I'm coming from. I'm blind in the field looking out and trying to report back pieces of whatever I can visually see and hear and how I'm interpreting them to be, because I have no way of verifying anything. There's nothing substantial, official, or real. There's no system here that you put into the system, but it never gives anything back to you except more stuff where you're like, well, now I have to rely on cryptic animals in some cipher that's off. I know it's off. So anyway, so this gentleman was referencing as a president Turkey. I don't have a name because it wasn't displayed on the bottom in any language that I could read. So it was Turkey. It was a president, and it sounded unifying. That's the impression I received. Then I have then there was, after that, there was a woman ambassador. I don't know that level. She works for apparently a prime minister. Again, I've heard here in the United States of America, in New York, throughout the limited schooling with New York State, I've heard of a president, although they did not describe function or job qualifications or what it looks like. They never built a reality of what to expect from a president. And then, so prime minister, I had never even heard of until Yeltsin, but then I mean, I've heard it in passing, but again, I don't know the distinction, and I wouldn't know who to ask, because none of the cryptic animals around here are reliable. Like Linda and Lou, they are not reliable or prepared to bestow pearls of wisdom onto me. I listen to them with a very cryptic, like, discerning manner. All right, so then this ambassador woman, again, I didn't catch her name, and I don't believe it might have been displayed on the bottom, but again, Linda came in, I was trying to listen intently. She was passing forward a message from an ambassador, from a prime minister. I do not know. I think she was more Greece, I think, because she kept saying Cyprus, Cyprus, but, and then I think she referenced Cyprus and Turkey. You know what? My working memory is not working. That's usually why I try to overlay parlay, so I then have a reference point at this level of importance back, but now I'm in the middle, so, and I don't want to let it go because I can't rewind my life back to where I was. It doesn't work that way in the field, so, gotta think about this. Cyprus. Oh, and then, so that, will end that one. So that sounded like something to do with the United States. Oh, they were still supporting the United States, which is good. If the states, and then my question, are the states more than 50? Or does that that gets more confusing, I think. I don't know at this point. It's, and here, I then, after that went off, had a lower, because I had some form of semblance of trying to put that together. But then I have to flip gears, because I got to go back to Linda's level of non-essential equipment speak. And she's like, I'm like, I really, when Ellen DeGeneres is on, I said, I like her demeanor on the show. I was like, because I don't feel like with The View, I feel like they're very politically motivated and sponsored to stay in a specific column that checks off boxes and then debate, which I really don't like. I think it's misleading. Then I was like, there's Ellen, and Ellen's more like, I don't know, there's no debate, it's just her and a couch and whatever. And it's more, it's just easier to tolerate, although at the moment I don't particularly care for her guests, so I walked away. But I said to Lynn, I was like, there's a discerning difference. And so she's like, yeah, well, one's political. I'm like, right, got that, with corporate with sponsorship. I was like, and then what would you classify Ellen as then? She's like, well, entertainment. I'm like, right, yeah, different moral compass. Still sponsored, but it would be more of an entertainment sponsor and branded in corporate consortium that way, rather than a politically motivated, branded whatever in The View that then debate and becomes like a spin doctor in plain view of why are they allowed so much political sway and freedom in the broad daylight while New York City is under such attack? I'm just curious. I mean, we have a broken weather pattern and environment, and the kiddos are like throwing some kind of social party in broad daylight that I'm not even attending, and it's causing havoc at other levels. of people thinking one thing when it's a completely different reality. Let's think about this. Yeah, so that's that. So it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. That's where I am, Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, and it's a galaxy that's broken at the moment, from me anyway, in dangerous area. Oh, and then Lynn came back at me after we made that distinction, and she's like, it's like, I swear to God, it happens to me all the time. It's like the changing of a dial, and it's like her radio station or her radio wave frequency just changes. It hits her inner pineal gland between her two temples on her temple mount, and then all of a sudden she comes at me in attack mode, and she's like, that's not what it is. And I'm like, wait, what? And she's like, what you just said. And I was like, what did I just say, Lynn? And she's like, well, you just said, I'm like, it was like attack mode. And I'm like, wait, we just put this to bed. I was like, I just said that one's like politically motivated. She's like, right. I was like, and Ellen would be more entertainment sponsorship. She's like, yeah. And then she goes, oh, you know what? Just forget it. I was like, what? But I mean, it happens to me all the time. I'll have a conversation with somebody, and it goes one way. I'm really clear and specific on my intent and what I mean, and then they'll leave the room, and it's like funny fickle how somebody else reads the conversation or what they're left with and how they report thereafter. And I'm like, but no, I know humans are broken. I know the Matrix is broken. I get that. But then when it comes back on me, that's why it's been so important and imperative with, I know I have a working memory issue, but when I'm in a moment, I end that moment on I am so concise and clear, like you can slice it with a knife, replay it, and that's the way it was. But don't ask me like 5 years from now what that exact moment was. You can go back and rewind it in special equipment. But for me, it was whatever it was in the moment. And I was real clear where I stood in that moment and what I meant in that moment. If circumstances then kaleidoscoped and changed, it changes the whole context. It changes the whole thing.